Now it's time for today's opponent preview, and we'll take a look at the Los Angeles Rams. They're set to play the Giants on October the 4th in Los Angeles. That'll be week 4 of the NFL season. And we bring in Rams radio analyst and former defensive tackle DeMarco Farr. Well, DeMarco, I think any conversation about the Rams has to start with the fact that Todd Gurley, who has been the face of that franchise for the last few years, is no longer a part of it. How different is the vibe around that ball club these days?
It's weird. Todd has been so much to this organization, so much to this run, so much to Sean McVay, and then, when you type in his name, when you Google search his name, the Falcons come up. So you're still trying to get used to that, but how do you replace a guy like Todd Gurley? I don't know. But last season, it just wasn't the same Todd Gurley. And it seems like he only had a part-time Todd Gurley. So that seems to be the reason why the offense struggled so much. So if you can't have a healthy running back, if you don't have a bell cow back that can carry the load time in and time out, you don't have much in the way of offense. So we'll see. I mean, it's going to be weird without Todd around. He was a fixture in the locker room. The guys just absolutely loved him. But you know how this league is. If you can't go, if you're not 100%, they will move on from you immediately. So that's exactly what happened here. So we'll see if the Rams can get over not having Todd Gurley in that lineup and on the roster.
Well, you take this Rams team, and obviously they've had a lot of success in the years prior. And I believe that, the cap situation has hindered them tremendously coming into 2020. Not only Todd Gurley leaving, but Brandon Cook, Dante Fowler, even the kicker Greg Zuerlein. So a lot of different changes. The roster is going to be completely different, and not a whole lot of talent there. So what's your expectations for the 2020 season for the Rams this year, DeMarco?
Well, you still got Johnny Hecker. I know you like him.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'd be crushed if they got rid of him.
Absolutely. Yeah, he told me about some sort of punt called the banana. He told me to ask you about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I never was able. I was not privy to that type of information back when I played, because the Australian guys, they all invented these kicks that now these guys do now. But yeah, it's like a boomerang. It's like a boomerang.
Yeah.
They kick it, it kind of goes, and the returner has no idea which way it's going to spin, and they use it to their advantage. So that's the best.
We have an intimate relationship because I'm on the sideline and I constantly have to avoid him when I'm trying to make my way to the field. So
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, Brandon Cooks, he was a guy that when you were getting ready to play against him, I mean, and you see him on film, he scared you. He was absolutely dangerous. And then when you saw him playing for the Rams, you saw the same stuff. I mean, he's a crisp route runner. He's got speed to burn. I mean, he can get open versus just about anybody in the league. But I think once the concussion thing started happening with him, it kind of slowed him down. And if you ask Sean McVay, I mean, he'll never say it publicly, but, you don't want to put guys in harm's way. I mean, you might not want to call routes that bring him towards the middle of the field where he can take a big hit. Well, you can't call plays like that. So it's a shame, but that's just the way the league goes. Guys get hurt, guys get injured, guys have problems with concussion. So moving on from him, I think was a fait accompli towards the middle of the season. But I'll tell you this, they have a guy named Josh Reynolds who's been kind of hanging around as their fourth receiver for the last couple of seasons. I think he's ready for prime time. He's had some moments. So if you add him into a receiver core that has a Robert Woods, Mr. Steady Eddie, who can get open and is tough as nails, and then a Cooper Kupp who was on the rise, 1,000 yards last season, 134 targets, I believe, and I think he can actually do more for this football team. So if you add him into the mix, I don't think you're going to miss Brandon Cooks all that much, to be honest.
Well, so maybe the passing game is going to be okay because Jared Goff is still there to deliver the ball. But before I ask you about Goff and his continued development, DeMarco, what about the running game? Does Malcolm Brown become the guy who steps up and goes to the forefront as the lead back, or will it be more of a backfield by committee? We know that Belichick has done that with the Patriots for a lot of years, and one game's doing it.
Well, I think this is going to be the new NFL economy for the Rams. And look, when you have to pay your franchise quarterback, things change. I think we know all about that. So I think the way to combat that is you have to go running back by committee when you pay your quarterback so much money. So I think the matchup with the Giants is going to be interesting because of where it's slotted, week 4. I think you're going to know by then who the lead back is going to be. You would guess Malcolm Brown would get the first couple of carries in preseason, early in the regular season, because he's the most experienced guy. Then Darrell Henderson is the guy they love as a backup to Todd Gurley. He's very, very explosive. He just got hurt the ankle, so that kind of slowed him down. And then they just drafted Cam Akers, a guy Sean McVay loves, a Swiss Army knife of a running back that fits the offense. So I would say a month into the regular season, you're going to know who the starter, I wouldn't say bell cow, but the guy that's going to be the lead back is going to be by then. So Jared Goff is obviously the guy, but behind him it's going to be by committee until that running back, so that one guy steps up and becomes the guy.
Well, you asked about Jared Goff, Paul, so maybe DeMarco can tell us a little bit about what's up with him. Obviously a down year last year. Is it the system? Is it the players? What is it?
Look, Jared Goff is a throwback type quarterback. He's a drop back guy. He's not going to give you much in the way of using his legs to move the football, or if you get pressure on him, he's not going to find the escape route more often than not. What he's good at is getting the ball out fast and really getting the offense going in an up-tempo situation, and Sean McVay knows that. So, we used to give Jared a lot of credit and a lot of heat for wins and losses. So I think what you need to do is look at what was going on in front of him, the offensive line. It was in flux. The first two seasons under McVay was a dream. The same five guys started a majority of the games. Well, in 2019, that all changed. I mean, you were in flux week in and week out, and that really affected Jared Goff. That affected the offense. So, look, Jared Goff going into year 5 is going to have to understand what he has in front of him. And, dare I say, bring a little Eli Manning into his game plan. If it's not there, chuck it to a safe situation, burn the downs, live to fight another day. Don't force the football. And then when you get under pressure, when you are cornered, make sure you protect the football and don't turn it over. It was funny. It was funny to me, but it wasn't funny to Sean McVay, listening to him talk about how he's going to coach Jared Goff on holding the football and how sick of seeing the ball come out when Jared got sacked in key situations. He just couldn't stand it. He's going to rep it. He's going to drill it. He's going to practice it. I think you guys went through it with your quarterback, with Daniel Jones, fumbling the football under pressure. So that's the one thing. You can be sacked in the league, but just don't give up the rock when you do get sacked and you're trapped in the pocket.
Well, when you talk about quarterback pressures, you're talking about the tackle spots, and Andrew Whitworth, 14 years in the league. I guess there was some doubt, at least around the league, as to whether or not he would keep going, but in fact he is back again, DeMarco. How much does he have left? Can he give Jared Goff the protection that he needs to succeed?
Well, in today's NFL, look, you can play a long time. I saw Jackie Slater do it in the old school NFL when they beat you up on Wednesdays and Thursdays, but this is different. The Rams have a great plan of attack when it comes to practicing and keeping guys healthy, and that's definitely benefited Andrew Whitworth. And I'll tell you this, man, when you see this guy work out, when you see him in the gym, when you see him walk by, you'd have no idea he spent 14 years in the league. He looks like he's 25 years old. Very athletic, takes care of it, he gets it, he's invested in himself. So when he decided to come back, that was great. I bet Jared Goff was the happiest guy in Los Angeles, possibly on the planet. He just doesn't give up sacks. He may give up pressures here and there. He may get overpowered because he's not the biggest guy, but the guy is just a consummate pro, and he helps the 4 guys directly to his right. So having him back is going to be huge for this O-line, and it's going to be huge for Jared Goff.
Hey, real quickly to stay on the offensive side of the football, the Rams, they drafted a rookie, Van Jefferson. Tell me a little bit about him. I know we know a little bit about him covering the draft this year, and quite an interesting guy, and I think he's going to do well for them.
What's that race car driver, Formula One guy, Lewis Hamilton? And I've heard him described this way, his driving style. It's like the car is on rails. The way he just takes corners and he doesn't break speed, and it's just amazing. That's why he's at the top of his sport. Well, I could say that he runs routes the same way. When you watch him on tape, it looks like he is absolutely on rails. You don't know where he's going until he's there already. So that's the type of guy that Sean McVay covets in this offense. And he'll always talk to you about it. He thinks football is more about what happens above the net than below it. So it's not about being a burner. It's not about being a leaper. It's about a guy knowing when and how to get open, kind of like a Cooper Kupp. So if you can add another Cooper Kupp to the to the offense, it's just going to make Jared Goff that much better and this offense more dangerous.
When we address the defense, DeMarco, let me just speak in generalities for a second before we ask you about some specific players. You're talking about a defense last year that was near the bottom of the NFL in red zone D. And you know as well as anybody, you can't be giving up points inside the red zone like that. You give up too many touchdowns, you're going to be in trouble. What is their number one reason to believe that they think that can improve?
Well, last year was kind of weird. I mean, Eric Weddle brought a certain sense of professionalism to this defense, to this football team as a whole, but there was some confusion in the back end, especially when you got to the red zone. So it was the first year that Corey Littleton, who I'm sorry to say it's going to be tough to replace him, but it was the first year as a starting middle linebacker that he wasn't calling the plays. So that was a little bit weird. Then you lost John Johnson III, one of the better strong safeties in the league, and definitely on this football team, and you had some younger guys playing, so some of these good offenses, or just offenses in general, took advantage of that and really filleted the Rams in the red zone. So that absolutely has to get better. But look, to be a good red zone defense, you've got to be able to stop the run 100% of the time. You've got to take that away from the offense. So every now and then they were able to chip away and just force the Rams to commit versus the run. Then they'll hit you on play action versus man coverage, and boom, it resulted in a touchdown or two. But look, I think there's going to be a renaissance on defense. Wade Phillips is out. You've added some new pieces. A'Shawn Robinson is coming in to play the one technique, to be a nose tackle. I think he's better suited for that spot than anywhere he's played in Detroit. So you're going to be better there theoretically. And you also have the best football player in Aaron Donald playing on the defensive line. So I think the pride was dinged last year, so there is a renewed sense of hope on this defense and some get-back that needs to be had. So usually when this team loses, they blame the offense, but that's only cover for sometimes the defense lets you down in the red zone. So they understand that. They know that. They're all working to get better with the new faces.
Well, I'll tell you what, one thing that I do like about the defense, I think that the secondary will be good. I mean, you got Jalen Ramsey there is fine. And I think that group can hold their own. I guess to me, is we talked a little bit about the pass rush, and, it's going to have to, you lost Fowler and Clay Matthews. And those are two guys that can get after the quarterback. And I guess they're hoping that, with the guys that some of the guys you mentioned, can get to that quarterback. That's important.
Well, Leonard Floyd is a guy that you love the way he looks and you love the way he performs some of the time. Now, you're going to have to turn that on or turn that into an all-the-time thing. And like you said, Dante Fowler is a guy that was an absolute monster. He was running for a big contract. You could tell he was on a different level than everyone else. So you have to find some way to replicate that. If not, you're going to be in trouble. Look, there's only so much Aaron Donald can do, and that's kind of funny to say that because, like you said, he's one of the best players in the game. But if you don't have edge pressure in this league, you don't have much. If Aaron Donald continues to win versus single and double teams, if the quarterback has an escape route, then what good is it? So you're going to have to at least keep guys in the pocket so you can get that interior pressure to him. But I think that is going to be what we're going to watch. And middle linebacker is going to be something we're watching. Edge pressure is going to be something we're watching early to see which guys step up. And we mentioned running back, too, to see which guys will step to the forefront and become the guy on this football team.
Terrell Lewis, the outside linebacker from Alabama, was drafted in the third round. Now, his measurables are impressive. Obviously, he didn't get all the production that he wanted to get when he was in college, which is why he fell to the third round. He's very intriguing to me, though, DeMarco, and I wonder what kind of plans they have for him. I know it's hard for rookies this year to try to crack the lineup right away, but does he have a shot?
Absolutely. There's going to be a lot of guys in play and in the mix. We'll see. I mean, Micah Kiser is a guy that should have played at inside linebacker last year, got hurt in the preseason, missed all of 2019, so he's a guy that they have penciled in as one of the starters. So, but around that, you would say outside of Samson Ebukam, who has the most experience of any outside linebacker on the roster, at least in a Rams uniform, outside of that, it's a bunch of question marks. It's a bunch of guys that filled in for spot duty, played a little bit, special teams mavens, but becoming frontline guys or starters or in the rotation, you haven't seen that yet. So there's a lot of question marks at inside and outside linebacker. But I'll tell you this. When you watch the tape at Bama, like you said, the physical measurements are there and the athleticism and the explosion is there. You see it. Now you have to see it all the time and at this level.
Well, we talked a lot about offense, defense. I won't bore everybody with special teams. I won't go there.
No, come on, man. That's the most important part of the team.
Jeff, I tell you what, I want you to go to special teams. DeMarco wants to talk about it, but I want to go one more question on defense first, because he mentioned Aaron Donald, and how could we get through this entire situation and segment without talking more about him, because he is clearly one of the most valuable players in the National Football League and has been for a couple of years. DeMarco, you played the position, so you know better than anybody the kind of appreciation that this guy carries around the NFL. Tell us on the East Coast, folks who see him maybe 3 or 4 times a year, exactly why on a week-in and week-out basis this guy is so incredibly dominant.
I have never seen anything like it. I really have. And this is I played with or was in the league with Warren Sapp, with John Randall. I saw up close and personal. I saw the Hall of Famers go at it. But I've never seen anything like this before in my life, where you can line up absolutely anywhere. When you can have a defensive tackle that lines up at right end and wins. You put him at left end and he wins. You double him, he still wins. If you mess up and get crazy and you try to single him, he absolutely will hurt your football team. So he's tremendous. He's smart. He's strong. He's humble. He is the absolute, well, he's getting better, but he's the worst interview that you can have for postgame, because he refuses to talk about himself. He'll have like 6 sacks in a game, 8 forced fumbles, and just absolutely won it for the Rams, but he wants to talk about somebody else in another locker. He's just that humble of a guy. So, and I remember when they drafted him, there was actually a fight in the front office. They thought he was a change of pace defensive tackle. What the heck is a change of pace defensive tackle? He's the best guy in the draft. Take the guy. So, yeah, he was great at Pitt. He's been great at the league, and I don't think he's really showed any signs of slowing down. So I think what you saw last season and the season before that, you're going to get in 2020.
Is it his first step? Is it his quickness laterally? Is it what is it that makes him so good? Aside from everything that you said, is there one intangible there that you just say, he's got this like no other person I've ever seen? Is it a punch? What is it?
It's kind of like Reggie White. You can't fool him. If you're a starting guard in the National Football League, and I don't care who you are, if you show him that you're about to pull, give him any sort of indication as to what you're about to do, you're dead. Even if you fool him, even if he makes a mistake and you get him to take a jab step in the wrong direction, he's strong enough to fight through that block and get back into position to make a play, or at least force it back to his nearest defender. But if you give anything away, anything, he's absolutely going to maul you. He's going to be in the backfield. He's going to make a play. So, and he doesn't miss. That's the coolest thing. And if he gets hit with a play that he hasn't seen before, the next time it comes around, he beats it. So he's a guy that spends hours and hours and hours in the film room, and then hours and hours and hours in the gym and on the field getting better. So he's what you want in your quarterbacks, but he's just a defensive tackle. He can absolutely dominate a game from that spot.
Well, you talk about somebody that can dominate a game, and we don't have to talk much about it, but I just want to get your comment on Johnny Hekker, because the punter for the Rams, I got to meet him a few years ago when the Giants played after the game, and a very respectful guy. I mean, I cannot believe how big this guy is. I mean, I was just like, oh, are you kidding me? He's got to be 6'6". I don't know what he's listed at, but he is a big man. But he is so talented. And then I know that when John Fossil was there, they used a lot of fake punts and stuff like that. Which, by the way, if you can effectively run fake punts in the National Football League, you will never ever face a rush as a punter ever again. Which is a nice thing. Tell me a little bit about Johnny and what you've experienced about him, other than running into him and trying to get out of his way by the kicking that during the game.
Yeah, he's a great pro, and this is funny. Sometimes I use him when I can't see down the field, like if it's a big play. I'm like, what happened, Johnny? I can't see. I'm only 6'1". But he's great, though. I mean, he works at it. He takes it seriously. He's a guy that, sometimes you have a tendency for punters to act like they're not a part of the team or not like they're one of the guys. He is absolutely one of the guys, and he's willing to go down there and, lay the wood if he has to. But look, he can uncork any sort of punt you need at any sort of moment. If it's a game where it's a 3-3 ball game and it's a field position battle and you need a guy to flip the field time in and time out, he's the guy to do that. If you need your punter to be a short range guy and to be accurate and put the ball out on the one to keep them backed up, he can do that as well. And like you said, if they call the fake punt, and he's always eager to call that fake punt, I think he had the green light last year. Like, he could run those things without being called. That's how much confidence they had in him. So when you have a guy that's that much of a weapon and that in tune with just football in general, I mean, at various times, and I remember this is going back to when Jeff Fisher was the head coach, the Rams were actually going into New England to play, going into Foxborough. And you know how Belichick is. He doesn't say anything about anybody, but the only guy he mentioned on that roster was Johnny Hekker because of how smart he is and how much of a weapon he is. He can keep you pinned. He can get you out of trouble. There's so many things that he can do. There's almost nothing he can't do as a punter in the National Football League.
Obviously I played a long time and been around a lot of punters. He is the most impressive guy I have ever seen. And just check this out. Up until 2000, and I believe it was 2008 or 9, there was only a handful of punters that ever had net averages over 40 yards. 40. Well, Johnny Hekker, since 2013, listen to these net averages: 44, 43, 43.7, 46, 44, 43, 43. Let me just tell you something. Those numbers right there, almost all those were higher than I ever had gross numbers in my playing day. So, and the most impressive thing about this is the return yards against him: 152, 152, 104, 190. Those are 16 games, guys. So it just goes to show you how much of a weapon a punter can be on a football team, especially the defensive side of it. And I'll get off my soapbox now on Johnny Hekker.
No, you're right, man.
I just love it.
There are no punt returns against the Rams with that guy. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like he can absolutely control that guy with his foot and where he places the ball. I'm with you, man. He's amazing.